Hey, thank you, Teresa, for having me out here. I was just going to see if everyone would just take a few minutes here with me and think of someone in your life, and it may be yourself, who over the past year or so has been negatively affected by the overreach of the government in your life. Just picture that person in your mind. I was knocking on doors this past Wednesday with Rebecca Petty. We knocked on the door, and a lady answered the door. Her name was Donna. Donna's a widow with 2 young children. And Donna received a letter in the mail the other day that said her insurance was going to be canceled in December. Right? So I think about Donna. She said, well, I've got to have insurance for my children, so she went to try to get insurance, and now it's going to be 300% the price she had been paying. Donna just lives 6 blocks this way. It's real. I think of another friend of mine. His name is Cline. He's a home builder down in Fayetteville. He went to buy a lot from a University of Arkansas professor who decades ago bought a lot for part of his retirement just as an investment near the University of Arkansas. So my friend Clay was going to buy that lot off of him for a huge amount, $80,000. So they come to a contract. They go to the city of Fayetteville to pull a permit. You know what the Fayetteville says? Oh, no, that lot is now a dead lot. City council passed an ordinance that said if you're within 100 feet of a stream or a dry stream, that's a dead lot. You can't build there anymore. So with one vote, one stroke of a pen, the City Council of Fayetteville, in a local government move, pulled retirement away from that professor. They took away his property through regulation, and they took my friend Clay's opportunity to provide for his family away on that project. So we all know business owners, small business people who are dealing with this regulation, the overpowering taxes that they're dealing with, and they're trying to figure out every day, is it worth the continued fight? So I want to tell you about one more specific person that came to my mind when I started trying to think about this. He's a friend of mine. His name is John. So about 12 years ago, John graduates from college, and John signs up for the National Guard. He goes halfway across the world to the desert to fight for our freedoms. While his new bride's back home having his first child, he's over there standing in harm's way for us. And John's a patriot. John comes back home. He starts working in the construction industry. And John's a very hard worker, so he has a lot of success with that. And a couple of years ago, he says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pursue the American dream. I'm going to start my own business. So that's what John did. About 2 years ago, he started his own business. 2013, had a great year due to his work ethic. And so I'm at home Saturday, working out in my barn. My kids are riding horses. And John calls me. And he seems upset. He says, Bart, can I come see you? Where are you at? I said, well, I'm just at home. Come on by. So John comes by and he gets out of his truck, and I can see he's upset. And I said, John, what's going on? And he says, well, Bart, I just got my taxes done. I said, well, man, you're 10 days early. That's great. Why is this bad? And he said, well, me and my crew, there's 6 families that depend on him now. He said, well, me and my crew, we worked really hard this year. Worked a lot of hours. We did things right, and we made a lot of money. I said, well, again, John, that's great. What's the problem? And he said, well, I'm going to have to write a check next week for over 40% of what I made to the government. And he says, it's not right. And I said, well, John, according to the law, it is right. And he said, well, maybe according to the law it's right, but morally it's not right. Because now I'm fighting this decision in my mind of why am I doing this? Why am I working so hard? So John gets home on a typical day, say it's a Thursday afternoon. His back is tired and his knuckles are bruised up from working construction all day. He flips on the TV and he sees our president telling John, you got to pay just a little bit more. Yeah. Right? And John turns the channel again, and it's right before we had our big government shutdown, right? The federal government's telling us how horrible things are going to be. Well, just days before the government shutdown, the federal government spent $5 million on new glassware for the State Department. And you might assume that they bought that fancy glassware to maybe drink part of that $400,000 they spent last year on liquor. So what's important is John says, I'm a patriot, right? So he says, I understand the value of our government. I understand the value of the defense. I understand the value of education, value of our police department, fire departments. He said, but I don't see value in $5 million worth of new glassware. And I don't find value in so many of these things that they're doing in our government. And so I agree with John. I said, well, I'm an elected official. How can I help John out? I mean, because John's not the only one. Every one of you here hopefully is thinking of someone that's been affected like this, and it's not fair. So that's what we're here today to do, right? We're here to knock on doors. We're here to make some phone calls. And we're here to go out in our communities and affect change by educating people on the issues that are important to us. So the next thought is, well, just because we educate the people, how does that change anything? Not just because they know what's going on. Does that mean they're going to do anything? And I thought back to, I finished my first session down in Little Rock, and I've learned there's really two kinds of politicians. There's the politicians that are going to stand over here and they're going to be rocks on principle, like so many other people here that I see will be. And then you got the other politicians that stand over here and they say, well, I'm just really not sure. I know I campaigned on that, but this lobbyist is telling me this. And you have to go over there and you have to fight for their vote every time. Every time there's an important issue. I've seen you down at Little Rock. I've seen you down at Little Rock. We're fighting for their vote. You know what? I'm tired of fighting for their vote. I'm ready to change the voter. Right? And once we're able to change the voter, then the conversation doesn't go to whether adding 250,000 people to government dependency through government-provided health care is really expansion or not. That's not the argument. The argument is now, are we going to cut income tax by 2 or 2.5%? That's the argument we should be having. And so I'm excited to see everybody here today. When this is all over, me and my family, we're going to find Wesley Vanderhoff, and we're going to go over there, and we're going to make some phone calls, and we're going to knock on doors. And I'm going to do it today for John, because he's who I'm thinking about, and he deserves it. And that's who I'm working for, and I hope you will take the time today, to whoever you were thinking about, to go make change. And thank you for having me. Thank you.